Florida's coronavirus stay-at-home orders are due to expire this week.
Governor Ron DeSantis said the state will reopen from the pandemic economic shutdown in baby steps on Monday and said regions could reopen at different times and rates. So joining us to discuss, Republican Congressman Greg Steube from Florida. Congressman, some counties are planning to roll back restrictions at recreational facilities, some public spaces as soon as tomorrow. What's it look like in your district?
Yeah, in Sarasota, it started yesterday. Charlotte County, it started yesterday. Last week, there was some cities that opened up on Friday over the weekend. Now they've put restrictions in place, so they've opened up the beaches, but like you can only do outdoor activity. You can't sit still. You have to remain the social distancing. So you're slowly seeing that open. I was out and about yesterday, and it seems like things are getting back to normal, although being cautious, a lot of people wearing masks, doing the social distancing. But quite frankly, I think that's what we need to be doing. I think we need to get Florida back to work, allow businesses to reopen. If people can go to Walmart and Publix and all these other locations and not see a spike in cases, then certainly it's safe enough for these small businesses that have been impacted for this last month to open it up and start their businesses again.
Congressman, I used to live out in Lee County and spent a lot of time there in Lee County, Charlotte County, Collier County, where Naples, Fort Myers is. Spent a lot of time at the beaches there. How do you enforce that when you're talking about the beaches being open, but you can't stay in one place? You got to keep moving. How is that being enforced there on the beaches, or are you just asking beachgoers to simply adhere to it?
It's local government that's in charge of the enforcement. I haven't heard. I actually bumped into a law enforcement officer that I know pretty well the other day, and he said they're obviously responding to calls for service, but being proactive, they're obviously being a lot less. So I can't really see them doing something extreme unless somebody is really trying to take advantage, having a big group party or something like that on the beach. I could see law enforcement getting called and coming to break that up. But if people are following the rules and being respectful, I think you'll slowly see Florida open back up. I hope that Governor DeSantis keeps his promise and just keeping it closed for the rest of this week, and on Friday when we turn into May, hopefully that he'll start reopening business, especially elective procedures at medical hospitals.
Well, let me ask you about this too, since we're talking about this topic, if you will. There's a growing debate now over whether states should get a bailout. Congress set to start working on phase 4 of a relief bill that's expected to include some more help for state and local governments. Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell, as you know, has taken some heat for suggesting cash-strapped states should allow them to declare bankruptcy rather than to get federal aid last week. I'm curious, you're going to be voting on this at some point. Where do you stand on this issue?
Well, there was $100 billion that was in the phase 3 coronavirus bill. Florida got $8.3 billion of that because we're the third largest state. And that $8.3 billion still hasn't been allocated to the municipalities or cities, and the governor hasn't decided how they're going to allocate those resources. So what I would like to see is, how is that $100 billion that we've already appropriated, how is that going to be spent? Is that going to be enough? I spoke to a local county commissioner in Okeechobee County, and they haven't seen any funds. They're requesting funds. But until that $8.3 billion in Florida and the $100 billion nationwide is allocated, I don't think we should be talking about more funds to local governments and states when they haven't used the money that's already been allocated.
All right. Congressman, another question to ask you here. The president is vowing to seek very substantial damages from China over its handling of the coronavirus outbreak. You've been an advocate for holding China accountable. What's the latest on the steps that you've taken?
Yeah, I filed a bill that would allow the president to negotiate a way financially that China can be held accountable for this. Obviously, they hold some of the interest on some of our debt. That's an option that could be exercised possibly through the World Bank. The bill that I put together would allow the president, through his negotiating powers and his powers under the Constitution, to do foreign relations, to be able to determine and negotiate with China the best way. I mean, we know that they could have kept this in their country. We know now that they failed to warn the public. They failed to warn the WHO, and in fact lied to the world about whether it was transmitted human to human. So there were things that could have been done that weren't done. They should be held accountable for that. Look at the financial impact that we've had just in the United States for this. So I have a bill that would allow the president to negotiate that with China. And I think what you'll see as Congress gets back into session, we're supposed to be back up next week, is you're going to see bills and you're going to see manufacturing, you're going to see incentives to bring manufacturing back to the United States after all of this.
Yeah, we're looking forward to keeping our eye on it. Republican Congressman Greg Steube from Florida. Congressman, thanks so much.
Yeah, thanks for having me.